And we have a Crocodile Dundee hat, and they sell very well. A lot of the lords of the land have bought them because they look good. It's a breakaway from their hidebound tradition.
You mean to tell me a traditional lord in the middle of in the middle of England wears a Crocodile Dundee hat?
Yes, they're virile, they're masculine, and it thinks it appeals to the virility in men. We men are very vain, and any hat which enhances our virility.
You're kidding, we're talking about the English, right?
I'm talking about the English.
What is James Lock?
In fact, it's a hat shop. You can still trace the family lineage. It came down on the female side. Mary Lock inherited the business.
And where was the shop located back in those days?
Opposite this establishment here.
Really?
In those days, the upper classes used to walk up and down this side of the street. They still do, because the sun shines more on this side than the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So people gravitate towards the sun. Originally it was a pub called the Cock Inn, and it became vacant in the late 1600s. So it was modernised in 1764, and we haven't touched it since, except for electricity. If Lord Nelson came in today, he'd recognise the shop.
What did you do before this?
I was a banker for 25 years.
You're a banker and you decided to get into hats?
I decided, well, yes, because I like dealing with the public.
When a gentleman, or a lady for that matter, comes into a shop like this, how do you know what suits them or doesn't suit them?
Well, the first thing to do is we talk to them, we make them feel at home. We'll ask them about their background, where they come from, and we also ask them what they want. And if they don't know what they want, we tell them what we think will suit them. With men, it's a question of getting the balance right between the actual shape of the hat and the physique of the person. You wouldn't want a small gentleman who's about 5'2" going out in a wide-brimmed fedora, because he draws attention to himself in the wrong way, because people look at him and think, what's that little guy doing in a big hat? Exactly.
So what would you recommend for a 5'2" chap wanting a fedora?
I would recommend a very small trilby hat with a narrow brim, which will give balance to his overall physique, so that they look at the whole image, not just a hat on top of a head.
What is the significance of the bowler hat?
The bowler hat originally was invented for landowners who had these beaters who used to work the land. They kept having the hats knocked off from the undergrowth. Not only that, they kept having their heads scratched by briars, so they wanted a hard-fitting hat to the head.
Yes.
That was the origin of the bowler. It was called a coat in those days.
Yeah, but you mean to tell me that a hat that looks as elegant as that used to be worn by someone plodding along in the bushes?
Yeah, because it was practical. If it's shellac, you see.
Right, I see.
And they gave protection to the wearer.
What was the next step up from in the hat hood?
A top hat.
A top hat?
Oh yes.
So you got a top hat to show us?
Yeah.
But you wouldn't wear a top hat everywhere, would you?
Oh, if you went to work? Oh yes, the stockbrokers wore them up to the 1970s. The governors of the Bank of England used to wear them every day to work.
If the bowler hat came from people beating around in the bush, where did the top hat come from?
The top hat came from France.
Right.
It landed on our shores in 1798. It started off in an area called Charing Cross, which is in the heart of London, about a mile from where we are now.
Yes.
And it was brought to us by a gentleman called John Hetherington. Caused a great fuss when it was first worn. Even the horses reared up at the side of it. And
really?
Yes. They'd never seen anything like that on a head.
And a few women used
A few women fainted in the street. That's right.
Really?
Yeah.
God help us.
Small boys ran away in terror. The top hat predated the bowler hat.
Sorry.
1798.
Yes.
1851.
So these are the two staples of British hathood.
They were the two staples of British hathood, but then they had younger siblings which came along in the 1920s and 1930s, such as the trilby and the fedora. Thank you, Janet. That's the trilby hat. It's usually worn by the everyday public because it's an ideal hat. It travels very well.
Yes.
It's got certain little advantages like you can crush it up. If someone sits on it, it's not the end of the world as we know it. If you're going to carry something out of a plane or travelling, you can roll it up, put it in the tube, put an elastic band around it and stuff it in your pocket.
Yes.
So it's the most practical hat we've got.
Right.
Also very popular among war correspondents because after about 3 or 4 wearings with a bit of dust on it, it looks as if they've been through hell and back.
Really?
And it's also
So it's an Indiana Jones type
It
of
is an
hat.
Indiana Jones. It's got very, very good street cred and it looks good.
What is the psychology of the hat?
The psychology of the hat originally was it was a badge of office. People
Ah.
wore different hats for different causes or different jobs, especially in the army. The higher the rank, the more elaborate gold and lace you had on your hat. Then it became practical and people just looked good in a wig. It seemed to complete their dress. The kiss of death for the hat was the car and President Kennedy.
This is the trilby.
That's the trilby hat.
And then this is the fedora.
That's fedora. Thank you, John.
So this is for the dandy, right?
This is for the dandy. Also, thanks. Also, the guy who's got a bigger physique, like 6'3",
Right.
he wouldn't look too good in a trilby. Although we do have a wide brim trilby to cater with that sort of customer. But this, sometimes you get a guy who's an artist
Yes.
or he wants to make a statement.
Well, why isn't Prince Charles wearing a hat then?
He wears caps.
Oh, yes, he does.
He does wear caps, yeah. And he
Well,
goes
what is
shooting
the
with caps.
psychology of a cap versus a hat?
The cap is usually more of a traditional item. A lot of people going shooting wear caps.
What about the things like the Panama hats and stuff like that?
Again, we have a very wide range of Panama hats. Ones you can roll up, the super Fianna, which are very, very exquisitely made. We have those as well.
But what is a Panama hat? How does that work? Is that for bankers when they're going for holidays, or what's
It's for everybody.
So the Panama hat's like the normal, everybody's hat
Everybody
when they're in a tropical place.
Exactly, because we cater for every taste from say £79 up to £500.
These are the
Thank you.
Panamas.
These are the Panamas. That's
That's
the
with
best
the
one you
GT
can get.
stripe, right?
That's the best one you can get
Why is that?
because it's made so finely.
Yes.
There are only about 11 guys in the world who can make these, and everybody who makes them.
When you say make them, you mean the weave of the
The
actual
weave
hat?
is so fine. Yeah, it is a family art, and everybody who makes them is so proud of his work. Rightly so, he initials it.
Right.
So that authenticates.
How
it.
much is a hat like
A
that?
hat like that would be £475.
Right. And what about a top hat?
A top hat, a silk one, depending on the size of the head, is starting at about £600. Create, you can reckon about £1,200 to £1,400. The reason they're so expensive, or may appear expensive, is they are a dying breed. They were phased out in the 1960s. The French people who made the silk no longer made it after 1964.
Right.
So there are fewer of them around. And in the heyday, people were smaller, therefore their physiques were smaller, so there were smaller head sizes around, there are very fewer large sizes around. So you have to pay more to restore the larger sizes to
make
original
it last
standard.
longer.
Yeah. So Paul McCartney comes in.
And what does Paul look for in a hat?
He looked for a cap
Oh, really?
because he's a very lax sort of guy. And his daughter Stella comes in.
Uh-huh.
And she buys caps as well. She buys corduroy caps and she looks stunning in them.
Right.
We've had Pierce Brosnan in. He bought a very nice black fedora. And also Harrison Ford's a customer in his own right. So Winston Churchill bought all his bowler hats here. Sir Anthony Eden bought all his hats here. Salvador Dali was a customer. Frank Sinatra was a customer.
Gee, Salvador Dali must have been an interesting customer.
He was a very interesting customer. He was before my time.
Sure.
But James Cagney was a customer. Larry Hagman was a customer. He bought his bowler hats here. We have a customer who bought 2 hats for his cat.
For his cat.
For his cat. I
What?
have photographed of his cat.
Fedoras or?
No, bowler hat. It's an English cat. Bowler hat for the winter and a straw hat for the summer. A boater for the summer.
Why doesn't that surprise me in England?
He came in last week because he bought a new car.
Yes.
And he's bought a leather helmet for himself. He's bought a special seat for his cat. He wants a leather helmet for his cat. with little holes for the ears.
Oh.
I said I'd be delighted to do it.
Yeah, but they can't have to go to university to become a lawyer or banker to do
No,
that.
no, but we fast tracked him.
Did you?
Yes, we
I'm
did.
glad you did.